Have you ever really stopped to think about how much power is packed into just three little digits? We're talking about your credit score. And, its impact on your financial life is way bigger and, frankly, more expensive than most of us realize. So today, let's pull back the curtain on this incredibly powerful number.
This one number can be the key that unlocks all sorts of opportunities, or it can be a gate that slams shut right in your face. It can literally affect where you live, the job you land, and the price you pay for just about everything. Which, of course, leads to the massive question we're digging into today. Is the system itself actually fair? But hey, before we can even get into a debate about fairness, we've got to understand the machine itself, right? So let's start at square one. What exactly is a credit score? At its heart, it's actually pretty simple. It's a number, usually somewhere between 300 and 850, that basically acts as your financial report card. For lenders, it's a super quick way to size you up and figure out how risky you are. A high score tells them, hey, this person's a safe bet. A low score, well, that tells them you're a bit more of a gamble. So where does this number even come from? It's not magic, it's a formula. And get this, two factors make up a whopping 65% of your score. First, your payment history. Do you pay your bills on time? And second, how much money you already owe. Yeah, the other little pieces matter, but those are the real heavyweights in the ring. All right, so we know what it is. Now let's get to the juicy part, its impact. The very first ripple it creates hits you right where it hurts, your wallet. It dictates the price you pay to borrow money for the absolute biggest purchases of your life. Just take a look at this number. $184,571. Now, what do you think that is? It's not the price of a house. Oh no. It's the extra cost. Think of it as a bad credit tax that someone might pay over the entire life of a mortgage, all because of their score. So how in the world does that happen? Well, this table breaks it all down. Picture two people buying the exact same $200,000 house. One has good credit, gets a 4% interest rate. The other has bad credit and gets 8%. Now, that doesn't sound like a crazy difference, does it? But wait, over 30 years, that little gap explodes into more than $184,000 in extra payments. Same house, wildly different price tag. And listen, it's not just houses. Let's talk about cars. For an average new car loan, the difference between a good score and a bad one can cost you an extra $15,000 in just 5 years. This credit tax follows you absolutely everywhere you need to borrow money. But the cost of a bad credit score goes way beyond just loans. And this is where it gets kind of sneaky. The second ripple is all about the hidden surcharges, these extra costs that are baked into everyday expenses that you'd probably never guess or tie to your score. Okay, you ready for a shocker? One report found that homeowners with low credit scores pay, on average, a staggering 99% more for their home insurance. That's nearly double the price for the exact same coverage, all because of that one little number. And yeah, you can imagine this has a lot of people scratching their heads. I saw this post from a guy on Reddit, right? He was baffled because his girlfriend, who he says is a much safer driver, was paying double what he was for car insurance, all because of her credit. And he's asking, is there really a connection here, or are they just charging more, well, because they can? Well, the insurance industry definitely has its answer. They argue that it's all about the data. Their statistical models show a really strong link, a correlation, between lower credit scores and a higher chance that someone will file a claim. So in their eyes, it isn't a moral judgment. It's just risk prediction, pure and simple, based on tons of data. This third ripple, though, this might be the most serious one of all, because now we're moving beyond just paying more for things. We're talking about the credit score acting as a literal gatekeeper to fundamental opportunities in life. A low score can mean getting flat out denied for an apartment, or having to cough up a huge security deposit just to get your electricity turned on. It can even cost you a job. One study found that 1 in 10 unemployed people had been rejected for a job specifically because of their credit report. Just wow. So all of this just brings us right back to that big central question. We've seen the impact, right? But why does the system work this way? Is it possible that it's built on a flawed foundation, one that doesn't just measure risk but actually reinforces inequality? This is where the critique gets really deep. In data science, there's a famous saying, garbage in, garbage out. It just means your results can only ever be as good as the data you start with. And groups like the Fair Housing Center argued this applies perfectly to credit scores. If the historical data that you feed into these models is already shaped by systemic inequality, then the output, the score itself, is just going to reflect and probably even amplify those very same problems. And this isn't just a theory. You can see it in the real world. Data from Cuyahoga County, Ohio, shows what this looks like on the ground. In majority white communities, about 12% of folks have subprime credit. But in communities of color, that number jumps all the way to 46%. The difference is just stark. And what the research suggests is that this isn't just about individual choices. Things like one single devastating medical bill, not having access to mainstream banks, or the long-term effects of a historic wealth gap can all drag a person's score down, no matter how financially responsible they're trying to be. Okay, so in the face of such a complex and honestly kind of overwhelming system, what can you actually do? Let's shift gears and talk about the path forward, the practical steps you can take to navigate this reality. First off, check your credit report for errors. Seriously, they happen way more often than you'd think. Second, remember payment history is king, so pay your bills on time every single time. Third, keep your credit card balances low. A good rule of thumb is to keep them well below 30% of your limit. Also, try not to apply for a bunch of new credit all at once. And finally, if it all feels like too much, remember there are professionals out there who can help. Which leaves us with one final big question to chew on. It's really the core tension of this entire topic. After seeing how it's calculated, the massive impact it has, and the powerful critiques of the system, what do you think? Is this three-digit number a pure measure of your personal responsibility, or is it maybe more of a reflection of your circumstances? It's a question worth thinking about.